の王者、その名も仮面ライダージオウ、タイムアーマー。また一つライダーの力を検証した瞬間である。
Whoa, you asshole. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the KamenRider Zio reviews on KamenRider BlackMan after 2 weeks. And today we are doing the Gaim tribute episodes 11 and 12. Now, I have a couple of reasons of why I haven't done a Zio review in like 2 weeks. Like, I saw episode 11, but I didn't want to just review that because it felt unresolved. And I just didn't want to do a video on that, so I waited until episode 12 came out to get a conclusion. And episode 12 came out very late in the week because I didn't know if it was going to get subbed or not, or when it was going to, so I ended up doing like a review of Gridman instead last week. So, with that said, let's get into episodes 11 and 12. And as you can see, we start off with Zio obtaining the Gaim armor. So, let's talk about that form right away. Because off the bat, the Gaim armor is ugly. It's terrible. I don't like how anything on this form looks, except for the chest. How the chest is good because it's Gaim's visor there, so you can't fuck that up. But the rest of the form is awful. Like, there are so many orange peelings everywhere, like on the legs, on his back, like on his arms. Like, samurai shoguns don't even have that much armor on them, just hanging around. And if they do have that much armor on them, it's all together instead of just literally hanging around. Like I said, he has orange peelings like on for like elbow pads. He's always prepared for a fight. If someone throws a punch at him, just throw your arm out. But I don't even know what's the point of the green part of the lock seed for. For, like, maybe to show through. I don't know, but this form just looks terrible. Ugh. But anyway, Sogo, of course, defeats another Gaim and is thrown into a time loop where it looks like it's an updated version of the Twister from The Wizard of Oz, because hopefully this show won't be written by Republicans from Kansas. Anyway, so Sogo is sent into a short illusion of planet Helheim, where it's breaking apart. And my theory is because of the events of Gaim now being erased, so everything is disappearing. But before the illusion ends, Sogo meets Kota as a space god in a completely different outfit than his usual space god look. Like, why would they change the outfit? It was a good, the first suit that Kota wore as a space god, it was nothing wrong with it. Like, it was a silver armor with the cape. It was like, it represented Kiwami arms. But in this, he's wearing a white cloth of clothing that's still godly-like. But it doesn't work. But in this, it just doesn't work. He was much better when he looked like a samurai shogun than a Greek god. Because it's just a weird departure. I think the wig is a bit different as well, but then again, that could just be me. And while we're talking about Kota for a minute, he really doesn't do much in this episode, he really doesn't do anything in this two-parter period, except for meet Sogo and give him his ride watch. But while I'm talking about him, another thing that I realized is that his hair is also pretty different. Like, it looks like he grew it out, and the only reason why I point that out is because of, like, last year or so, or back in 2017 when Heisei Generation's Final was coming out, he got, like, a short haircut. And I just bothered to bring that up because it's still the same length as short haircut, except before, like, at the end of episode 10, he had, like, a 90s type of haircut going on there. But the importance of his appearance overall is that he sees Zio on the path of becoming Oma Zio and gives him advice that a king can be powerful when they have when they have comrades to help them reach success. So that Sogo and benefits Sogo with him being a better king. And just another way of showing, or better way of showing the lesson being teamwork is the best way to get things done. And so, and it really helps there since it helps there. And so the illusion ends and time is reset. So another Gaim was killed before, but now he's still alive and he escapes. And that's where intro plays and whatnot for this episode. There's a thing about that I'll get into a little later down the line. But after the intro, we see Gates interact with the Time Jackers, Aura and Schwartz, trying to convince him to join them, trying to convince him to join. Yeah, Gates interacts with the Time Jackers, Aura and Schwartz, as they try to convince him to join them. And I'll leave it at that because Sogo and Tsukomi have been looking for Gates. And Woz shows up at the clock shop where they are and just tells him to forget about him. Like, Gates serves no purpose to begin with. And Sogo, of course, replies back that Gates is his friend and how he needs him to become a good overlord. And right before he leaves, we see and he finds a map that'll be much more important later, and an article in the paper about disappearing dancers from Team Baron, the opposing dance team from Gaim, saying that Gates will be there, and as well as the Time Jackers.
Time Jacker って何? 新しいダンスチーム?
No, they're the new time-themed Sentai. Also, quick note, Sogo switches shirts from back and forth in this episode, so there's a particular reason for that. And Sogo and Tsukomi go out to the dance hall to see if the Time Jackers or Gates will be there.
ごめんね。自分で入れてくれる?
The clock repair shop got one negative review on Yelp that day. So next, we see the identity of another guy, a dancer named Shira, and what he's really all about is just sending people to Helheim. And that's basically it. That's basically it. Anywho, Gates reveals that he's not interested in teaming up with Schwartz and just ends up being sent to Helheim himself. And now, this is where the episode takes a turn to where I wanted to wait with this one. But Sogo already has the Gaim. Sogo appears to already have the Gaim ride watch and is already ahead. And it's strange how Sogo already knows about the Another Rider so much that Woz, he makes this expression on his face that he's like he had no idea about this at all, and he goes like, "Hey, let me check. What? I didn't know about this." Anywho, so Gates stuck in Helheim with a bunch of other dancers that are stranded there. holds his own against a couple of invests that are there, and he beats them. A badass reigns. My favorite secondary rider, Kaito Kumon, aka KamenRider BlackMan, aka my favorite character from Gaim. Which brings me to another thing that I realized way after I reviewed the Forze/Fi's tribute with KamenRider Kaixa. With the events of Fi's erase, Kusaka never became Kaixa, therefore was never killed. And same goes for Kaito. And we'll get back to that secondary rider and secondary rider thing later. Right now, irritating Tsukiyomi.
おかえり。
病院に行ってたんじゃないの？
いやてかつくんこそどこ行ってたの？ケイツ見つかった？
え？
そうだよね。俺も見つからなくてさ。もう一回行ってくる。
ちょっと。
いってらっしゃい。おかえり。待たせてごめん。今どうしたの？
Now, backstory time. 5 years ago, in 2013, another Gaim, Ashura, was kicked out of Team Baron, and Schwartz, without consent, turns him into another Gaim.
邪魔者を退ける力欲しくないか？意見を求める。
Director, I need an adult. You think I keep making these molestation jokes, like, for no reason about Schwartz? But seriously, like, he takes the ride watch and penetrates it right between his ass and his back, so it's going up somewhere. And ever since then, he's been sending people to Helheim, including Kaito, which explains why he's the leader.
ねえ、なんでそんなに詳しいの？
Google.
絶対おかしい。
Okay. I've been using Bing. I used Bing. I used it to look up the information. And that's not all. I've also used Tsukiyomi, realizing that the Sogo she's been talking to has been wearing a different shirt than before, so they leave to get to the bottom of this. Back in Helheim, Gates is wondering if there's any way to get out of Helheim, and frankly, I'm curious to know how Kaito has survived there for the last 5 years, considering that if you eat the food there, you basically become a monster. Anywho, Kaito's curious as to why Gates is so desperate to him and senses his hesitance is showing and that he's opposing his strength to defy fate. So back in our world, at the dance hall, Tsukiyomi plans to lure out the other Sogo and exposes another Gaim by basically using a microphone that she just has to just interrupt the show. I'm not kidding. I seriously do not know where she gets this stuff from. And in the midst of battle, another Zio shows up out of nowhere.
Oh, konnichiwa.
Hey, what's up? Should lunch sometime.
Alright. Oh, Zio Armor and the other Zio fight together only to just stop and let the monster escape. And episode 11 ends with us physically seeing the two Sogos that are both there. Now, episode 12 starts off where we left off with the two Sogos, and we learn that the actual Sogo in this, well, the real Sogo that, well, the one that, I don't know, well, the one that I was paying attention to, is Sogo from 3 days into the future. So the actual Sogo time traveled back here to construct a plan to rescue Gates, and Tsukomi and Woes more or less take it well.
当たり前だ。君がやっていることはタイムジャッカーと何ら変わりない。とても王の所業とは思えぬ行為。
バカなことしてるって分かってる？分かってるって分かってない。取り返しのつかないことになるかもしれないんだよ。場合によっては。
Honestly, the two Sogos together are actually very funny. Like, all of the scenes with these two just make me start cracking up, and I can't help it.
ただいまおじさん。これでどっちの俺か分かるよね。それでいいじゃないか。そうはいかないよ。ゲイツは俺にとって必要な人間だ。いい魔王になるために。ってさすが俺。考えてることは同じだ。
Alright, so, first step to this plan is that the present Sogo needs to get the KamenRider Watch, and is given the map from earlier to where it is. Now, I think this could be, I don't know, like, so they go to a smoothie shop where they finally meet Kota, KamenRider Gaim, and encounter another Gaim again. And at least another Gaim can do something useful, like summoning Invest, to which he does. Schwartz shows up to throw a wrench in Sogo's plan and gets rid of the ride watches in Helheim, the Gaim ride watch, and the Kodama Suika Arms ride watch. This one I've been waiting to see since I first saw it, and oh my god, this would be the most useful thing in Zio's arsenal, like you wouldn't believe. Huh? That's not at all what I was expecting. Oh, and if you're noticing, like right now, it's currently 12:30 at night. I was filming earlier, literally in the day, but then my phone died, so I just went to class, then came back, and have been charging my phone since then. But anyway, Schwartz was there. Schwartz was even there because Woes gave them up, but Sogo from the future knew that the ride watches would get lost, and the Kodama Suika Arms watch would find Gates. And so Sogo decides, or Sogo planned to let the watch go so Gates could get out himself to show his worth. So really all of this was a plan to show that Gates isn't useless and is actually strong and useful to Zio. And I've watched this episode alone like 3 times, and I realized like it's creating and recreating that element from Gaim, from both Gaim and Baron, going about their roots for power, but instead of sharing different views from each other, like we're getting more or less of Baron's perspective with going after power to show your strength, and it just has a twinkle of Gaim in it as well, with how you can use comrades to go farther. And next, Kaito reveals to Gates a crack to escape from, and tells him that the only way to make it is to meddle what strength he has to get over his problem. So, Gates escapes through the crack with the Gaim watch, and makes it back to the present. So future Sogo could go to 2013 and defeat another Gaim. And now, this is the part where I have questions about, because where do I start? So 3 days ahead of time, Sogo goes to 2013, beats another Gaim there, and present Sogo just beats another Gaim in 2018. That makes me question that in general, because we've seen that before from the Wizard Tribute episode, but Gates was actually the one doing all the fighting, and Sogo did what he did to get across to Hayase in the present. In this, there's really no reason at all as to why, like, Sogo is fighting another... Well, it's like literally, once Gates gets the ride watch, that's it. Present Sogo's job is done. So the fact that he literally beats him in the present as well, like, it's like, what's the point of going back to the past then? Because this show has set up how important the time travel aspect is, with having to go back to the past and defeat another writers with said writer's powers. So literally staying in the present and defeating the another writer with said writer's powers as well. It's like, it makes the time travel part, like, pointless. Like, just that. It makes the time travel part pointless. Like, you can't say, like, it's an exception or whatnot. Like, we're 12 episodes in, and it's the most important part of the show. So just trying to forget about that this one time, that's a no-go. But either way, the two Zeos defeat the another Gaim, and with the two Sogos defeating another Gaim, and Ashura is kicked out of Team Baron. Hopefully in the future he doesn't come back with the Fight Club and becomes KamenRider Dark Baron. And so, this episode ends with Gates coming back, and his name being mentioned in Woze's book, which gives us something to look forward to in the future. So overall, this episode has mixed feelings for me. All this was to show Gates' worth to change history, and that does happen as planned. And the Gaim feel, on the other hand, it's not bad. It wasn't a bad angle to go on. But here's another thing that questions it, is that once you beat another Gaim, everyone comes back from Helheim to begin with, so I don't know. So it's like I know they wanted to show Gates' worth, but on the other hand, it sounded like they needed to get everyone out of Helheim first, then defeat another Gaim. So just, yeah, you get where I'm coming from. Like, you just reverse time for like you have a reason, but it's not a strong enough reason. But once again, what I do like about this episode, of course, are how Sogo was completely a step ahead of things this time, and literally, like this episode having two Sogos, it just made me die laughing. Like, I had so much fun editing this and getting it all together that I laughed a bunch of times. And so, now it's time to see what we have endured next. Since next week is our tribute, we have another shared tribute, which is with KamenRider Ghost and KamenRider Decade. That is it for today. For KamenRider BlackMan, as it is 12:38 at night. Please, thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about KamenRider BlackMan. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good night.